Hey everyone, welcome back to another LinkedIn Live. My name is JT O'Donnell from Work It Daily, and today I'm going to be talking about what you can do when you don't have a college degree, but you know you have the experience and you want to get hired at a company that is asking for one. So we get a lot of requests around this concept of how do I get around the applicant tracking system because I can't list that I have a degree and it's tossing me. What do I do? So we're going to break this down for you today. We're going to talk about the mindset of why companies are asking for the degree and the 3 things that you can do to try to get yourself hired in spite of the fact that you don't have the very thing they're asking for. Does that sound good? All right. But before we continue, a couple of things I have to remind you of before we get started. Lots of questions get asked, and the only way that you can ask questions is if you are following me here on LinkedIn. So I want to make sure that I show everybody how that works. If you're watching the screen right now on some other channel, if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, shout out to you. But please come over to the URL that we're showing you because you'll be able to see the screen, and up in the right, there'll be a follow button. When you hit the follow button, that will follow me on LinkedIn, and that's how you're able to participate in the conversation, post your questions. My team is pulling those questions so that I can answer them for you in real time. So that's the only way that I can answer your questions is if you hit the follow button on my LinkedIn profile. So please make sure you do that. That way you can actually participate in the questions today, okay? Awesome. So let's get this party started, shall we? Don't forget, we always love to hear where you're dialing in from. So please make sure that you post in the comments right now what part of the world you're coming from. And as I said, you can start posting your comments in LinkedIn and I'll be answering them for you. But right now, I really want to break this down for you because there are a lot of people out there who have incredible work experience, right? But they don't have that actual degree. And there's been so much discussion around this in the working world these days around, do you need a degree or not? In fact, I saw an article at one point where Apple is now not requiring degrees. Google is not requiring degrees. They're really looking at people's actual experience and capacity to do a job as opposed to whether or not they have this piece of paper. So the good news is that there's overall a recruiting trend that's being led by some of the most well-known organizations in the world to stop asking for degrees. Now that can be scary for people who have degrees and spent thousands of dollars and have lots of loan debt to get those degrees. But for those of you that don't have them, it is a ray of hope. And so we still want to talk about the bias against those that don't have a degree and what you can do to get around it. All right. Now, for additional resources, I know my team is going to be sharing with you in the comment section. We actually did an article on this, which talks about how to explain if you don't have a degree on your resume. So if you're looking for the specifics around that, I'm not going to cover that today, but there is an article link that we'll send you to that you can learn how to specifically put that information in your resume. Okay. All right. Right now, we just want to talk about this reality though. So why do so many companies still expect a degree today? I'm going to ask that question to all of my participants. Why do you think companies are asking for a degree, even in situations where clearly the job wouldn't require one? I want you to put that in the comments below. Take a second right now and just whatever your gut reaction is. What do you think it is? Why are they asking for these degrees? When you read the job description and you go, somebody with a high school diploma could do this job. Why are they expecting a 4-year college degree for it? Why do you think that is? All right. I want to see your answers in the comments below. Okay. But now I'm going to give you the answer as well. And that's because in the minds of a lot of companies, a degree equals grit. So what do I mean by that? Well, grit is your capacity to delay gratification. Grit is your ability to do something that you necessarily don't want to do. Grit is you putting time and energy into something knowing that will pay off later on. When somebody has invested the time and the money to get a 4-year degree, that sends a message. And by the way, they successfully graduate with a degree. That sends the message that this person has the ability to be self-disciplined enough to go and get that degree. And that means something because employers want to hire somebody who does have self-discipline. On top of that, if you studied something specific that ties to their industry or the work that they do, like business, for example, well, then they're also going to assume that you've been given some basic set of knowledge, some theory, so that you can apply what you've learned and be more valuable right out of the gate. Right? But overall, these days, the reason a lot of companies say that they want to have somebody with a degree is that grit factor, that degree represents a commitment to their learning, a commitment to their professional self, and they endured the time and the energy and the effort to make that happen. That's the theory. That's the reason why. It's also a tool for discriminating. Let's just call it for what it is. And I talk about this all the time on this channel in this session. Hiring is discrimination. Now, we have some protected classes where it's illegal to discriminate, but we still get discriminated against. And I'm going to use my analogy that I show you all the time, folks. Imagine I have 2 green apples, right, in my hands right now. They're both green, right? They both look good. Neither one of them is bad. Both of them is truly edible and will be delicious, okay? This is what employees are like, candidates are like. They all start to look the same. So a company has to start to get really nitpicky and have some kind of filter, some kind of discrimination, some kind of reasons to pick one over the other, right? So if I'm sitting there with the apple, literally on any given day, I might go, well, I'm less hungry today, so I'm going to go for the smaller apple. Or, you know what? I heard that brighter green apples mean they were picked off the tree more recently and are less old. I'm going to go with the brighter green. See what happens? Now I have to take any past experiences. I've got to code something to be able to make a decision and quantify and calculate and come up with a rational reason to pick one over the other. It's all about rationality. It's coming up with a viable way to choose one over the other, because that's what we're designed to do as human beings. So as you can imagine, there was a time where people didn't get a lot of college degrees. Way back in the day, not everyone went to college. And so it was usually for very specific professions, specific career tracks. Then all of a sudden we made everyone say, oh, everyone can go to college because college is going to guarantee you a better job. Now everyone's getting a college degree, a lot of times in things that they're not relevant or not interested in. So now I'm sitting here and I'm an employer, and I don't just have 2 apples, I get hundreds. Maybe I get thousands. How do I discriminate? Well, one of the easiest things to do is say, well, who had the grit to get a college degree? They got a college degree, so they've got extra education. So in our minds, they're more valuable. So we're going to pick them. See how that works? That's the rationale. That's what's happening out there. Don't get upset about it. Don't get defensive. It is what it is. And you're not going to be able to initially challenge that. And that's the thing that I really want to drive home to everybody today. When somebody has this mindset and they've said, hey, we're going to choose college degrees because that's grit and it's our way to kind of weed out a bunch of candidates. You can't go up to them and pound your fists on your chest and say, that's not fair. They're not going to listen to you. Instead, you have to apply tactics and techniques to get them to question their assumptions, to question their rationale and their thought process. That is not going to happen through an ATS system. That is not going to happen by you sending off an application and hoping that they see how great you are and they look past it. Not going to happen. And that's why we're having this conversation today, because I want to show you the 3 techniques that I know after us having worked with literally thousands of people in Work It Daily, some of which don't have college degrees and still get great jobs. We've taught them how to go around the ATS using these techniques. Okay. Does that sound good to everyone? All right. So just accept it for what it is. This is rationale that companies use, and you're not going to change their mind until you change their rationale, until you get them to think differently. All right. And yelling at them and telling them they're crazy is not going to do it. All right. Awesome. So let's look at this next one. So let's talk about you. Okay. First scenario is that you started your degree, but you never finished it. All right. And this happens to a lot of people. They start college and college is expensive and it's hard to juggle. And so they do some credit hours and they never fully finish, but they have some hours. They did put some effort into it. Now, some people will tell you, well, you didn't get your degree, so you can't put that on your resume. You can't share that. I disagree. I absolutely disagree. And this article that we're sharing with you, this link to the article, like I said, walks you through how to add this to your resume. I'm not going to show you that today, but I do believe that you should. Overall, what you're going to do is list the hours and the credits that you acquired towards whatever degree it was at whatever university you were at. And if you're like part-time taking classes and you might graduate, or an expected graduation would be such and such a date, you even add that in. So at least you can let them know, hey, I'm trying. I'm working towards that degree. Now, a lot of people don't realize they can do that, and you absolutely can. And it's very helpful to you if you do, because by putting an education section in, you're essentially working through the ATS. You're actually meeting that ATS requirement. I don't know that a lot of people know this, but when you are applying online, if you leave a field blank, it works against you. Some ATS systems disqualify you entirely if you leave something blank. Some just push you down the pile. So it's very important that you're able to fill something in every field. So if you can even say that you did partial, then you should absolutely be doing this and putting that in there. And this is one way to help you. Now, you're not going to lie and say that you got a degree. I'm not suggesting that, by the way. I'm not saying that you should, list a bachelor's degree when you don't have one, but listing the type of degree you were going to get. So what was the field of study, the college, the amount of credits or hours you did towards that, and the date of expected completion, that will help you. Okay. All right. Showing you went to school and that you are still going to school is really going to help people. They're going to know that, hey, this person has grit. They're trying, they're working full time, but they're also trying to get their degree. People love to see that tenacity. Does that make sense to everybody? Awesome. Okay. So now I want to move on to the second big point. So what if you never went to college at all, but you have lots of experience? And this is one that I hear a lot. People say, you know what, JT? Yeah, I didn't go to college. I went straight to work out of school, but hey, I have a ton of experience, more experience than anybody else. I know how to do this work. I'm passionate about this work. Why won't they hire me? All right, now we're going to talk about what you can do, okay? So the second step, the second tip, if you can't actually put some form of college on there, is to network your way around the ATS. And this is the most popular option, in my opinion. And that's because networking works. Your network is your network. Referrals matter. When you are referred into a company, when somebody vouches for you, whether they work at the company or they know somebody that works at the company, you immediately shoot up and they're willing to screen you in instead of screening you out. Now, why is that? Because companies hire for fit. It's not enough that you have the experience. They have to make sure you have the personality and the aptitude to do the work as well. And so if someone's referring you and saying, hey, he or she is a good, guy, gal, I've seen them at work. I know their work ethic. Yeah, I know they don't have the college degree, but they've got the X years of experience to make up for it. And they have all this success where you check them out. Now someone's vouching for you. And that can be a college degree bypasser. I've seen that happen a lot. Because again, what did I tell you? The college degree is an ATS screening tool. So applying online, it's going to get you tossed if you can't put anything in there. But if you can go around and talk to somebody, you wouldn't believe how many times the company's like, okay, well, again, we need somebody who's the overall right fit. If they don't have the degree, but they've got the personality and the aptitude and the experience, well, yeah, we can consider them. That's not going to happen through the ATS system. No human being's ever going to see you, whereas with networking, you will. It's really, really important that you understand that. Getting that person to vouch for you can make the degree requirement go away. Seen it happen over and over and over again. All right. So for those of you that don't have a degree, you need to be networking like crazy. You have to be networking within your industry, within your skill set, within your geographic location. You need to be building a network and building a brand so people understand your area of expertise. So when somebody says, oh, do they have a college degree? No, but gosh, they're so accomplished. They have a working education. That's what you have to brand about yourself, your working education. All right, number 3, and the third way that you can actually get, let's say you don't know somebody. So let's say, oh my gosh, I don't know anyone at this company, JT. I can't get my foot in the door. What do I do? The solution is a killer cover letter. And we call this the disruptive cover letter. This is a cover letter that tells the story of why you get them, why you feel connected to that employer, why you understand them in a way that others don't. And you're going to leverage your experience. You're going to play up your life, your beliefs, whatever it was that has taught you this, because obviously it wasn't college. So we've got to tell a story that gets them at hello. And this, I cannot stress how important it is. In fact, if you can do tip number 2 and tip number 3 together, even better. If you can network and write a killer cover letter, you'll be amazed at how many times you can bypass the college requirement. But if you don't have a connection, writing the story, it has to be very compelling. It has to talk about how you've come to understand that what they do, their product, their service, their methodology, the customers they serve, whatever it is, that you really get it. You get what drives them, because that's very tribal. And when they can recognize that you're a part of their tribe, they're going to care a heck of a lot less as to whether or not you get the degree, because you can't teach that. That's intrinsic. That's something you've taught yourself to be connected to what they do. Companies love that. And they can't teach that. That, all the college degrees in the world, if that person isn't feeling connected to the brand and understanding them, again, they can't teach that. So a college degree can't give that. That's where you're going to put your secret sauce. You're going to tell them the story that says, hey, I really get you, and this is why I feel like I'm a fit. And I have seen this work so many times, folks. But you got to put the effort in. And look, all I have to say is people go, but JT, it's not fair. Hey, what did I say earlier? Hiring is discrimination, and life isn't fair. And the reality is you're up against a lot of people that spent a lot of money getting a 4-year degree. And in the minds of the employers, those people invested money in themselves, in their brand. I always talk about you being a business of one. A degree is an investment in the business of one. So the fact that you didn't choose to do that, you've got to make up for it. You're going to have to tell a great, compelling story that really shows that, hey, I don't have that, but let me tell you about the working education I have. Let me tell you about how it's taught me what you do is better, faster, cheaper, smarter, amazing, life-changing. You've got to tell the compelling story. And that is a disruptive cover letter, which, by the way, we have a video tutorial on the concept of the disruptive cover letter. I can't talk today, over on our YouTube channel. I'm sure my team can pull that for you and share it in the link section. But you've really got to understand how to build these. It's not a, hey, I have 20 years of experience and I'm so awesome at this and I'm so awesome at that. That is not a disruptive cover letter. That is a bad, outdated, narcissistic cover letter that will not work. I'm talking about the cover letter that opens with, I remember the first time I used your product, or I remember the first time I realized the power of having to do this thing, whatever. It's got to get them at hello. It's not like any cover letter you've seen before, but it works. It's very disruptive, which is what you have to do right now to disrupt. What did I say? Disrupt the mindset. The whole rationale has to be completely turned on its ear for that person to even consider you. And these are the techniques. So to recap, what do you got to do? You've got to remember that hiring is discrimination. Just accept it and start to think about, well, if it's discrimination, if people have rationale, then it's my job to figure out how to disrupt their rationale. Okay. You've got to do something to overcome the hiring, whether it's filling in, if you do have partial college experience, getting that filled in so it works within the ATS. If not, it's networking, as we talked about today, getting that referral. And then lastly, it's telling an amazing story via the cover letter. Those are the techniques, folks. They're not rocket science. They take a little elbow grease. They take a little energy. They take a little work, but they pay off. And, my final thought to you is, how badly do you want that job? It's probably a really good paying job if it's asking for a college degree. How badly do you want it? What skin in the game are you willing to put forth? How much effort are you willing to go to get that dream job? You got to do it. You got to go after it. And you got to keep trying until they flat out look at you one day and say, no, we will never take you because you don't have a college degree. Then you cannot give up till somebody literally says that to you. You've got to keep trying these techniques to get around the system and get in front of someone. Because a good portion of the time, if you fit all the other boxes that they need, everything else they need, they're going to bypass the college requirement. As I said, it was just an early screening tool to use for rationale. So you've got to get past it. Okay. Hopefully that made sense to everybody. Yes. Awesome. Now it's time for a little Q&A. So I'm going to see what my team has got listed up here, and we will answer some of your questions. Again, for those of you watching, you have to be following me on LinkedIn. You have to follow my actual LinkedIn profile, and that way you will be able to participate in the live chat. Also, it will give you notifications when we're going live. So you'll learn about future events that we're having as well. So you want to make sure that you do that so that you can participate, okay? And while I'm doing that, right before I go over there and do some questions, I also wanted to add for all of you, let me see if I can get this up here, that you can follow me over on Instagram and TikTok too. So if you've got Instagram and TikTok accounts, we're giving out all kinds of advice there as well. Short, impactful. Look, social media, we like and look on social media all day. We also know it can make us feel really bad about ourselves. So you should be balancing out your feeds on TikTok and Instagram with positivity and with great, helpful, educational content. So at least when you're on it, you know that you're doing something, right? 5 minutes a day, you're going to be able to say, hey, I'm using social media for good. So be sure to go over and follow on TikTok and Instagram too. And I've got those rolling across the bottom for you. All right. Awesome. Okay. So let's go over and see what we've got for questions. Probably going to need my glasses for this one. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so Taylor has an interesting question. Shout out to Taylor Warnick. I want to change careers, and because of my degree, I'm discriminated against. They keep wanting to put me back in the category. How do I get around this? Awesome question, Taylor. So first thing I would suggest that you do is to drop the specialty of your degree. So on your resume and LinkedIn, I wouldn't put what the area of focus of the degree was. Just put that you got a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science and where you got the degree. That can be one way to absolutely play that down, just so you know. If they're requiring you to put it in, you could just even simplify and say something like general requirements, or something more generic. That's not lying. So let's say you were in psychology, but now you're looking to get into communications. You might do something like degree, and then you could put psychology/communications, right? And so at least you've got the psychology listed there, but you could say, hey, I did a lot of work in communications when I was in psychology, the degree's in psychology, but now I'm focused on communications. You're not necessarily lying, right? But you're there sharing the information that you need. So every case is a little different. The ideal scenario is to absolutely drop what the specialty of the degree was in, so that they have to ask you, in which case by then they've already looked at your profile and have screened you in. Or you can beef it up or generalize it a bit so that they're not immediately calling you out. Okay. Awesome. Also, I'm just going to tell you, Taylor, the techniques I talked about today, writing a killer cover letter and networking, are your ideal attributes to get around that rejection. Okay. If the ATS keeps tossing you, you got to go around it. All right. Awesome. Kenya Clark, shout out, says, isn't experience equated to a degree? It is not in some places, Kenya, just so you know. Some people will say, hey, all that experience counts. Others do not. Others feel that the intention to spend money and go to an institution means something, and that it's a wholly different experience than actually working on the job. So that's why some companies will not consider it equal, just so you know. Let's see. Lisa Quinn says, I have multiple degrees and it doesn't seem to matter. I can't find a job due to lack of industry experience. So Lisa, again, whether it's industry experience or a lack of degree, when you're getting rejected for something you don't have, everyone, let me say this again. When you are getting rejected for something you don't have, applying online will never work for you. It will never work, because there are dozens upon dozens of people that do have all the skill sets, and they are getting contacted first. So that strategy for job search does not work for you. Here's the good news. There are other job search strategies. It's called proactive. It's called creating a bucket list of employers you want to work for and targeting them and reaching out and building relationships so that you can be considered. It's creating disruptive cover letters like I talked about today. So you can't give up. You cannot give up. That's a defeatist attitude. You are looking at job search as the simple process of applying online and getting rejected, and therefore you can't get a job. I disagree. Every single day inside Work It Daily, we have people come in and say, I've been trying to look for work for 6 months. I've been applying online. Everyone's rejecting me. And we have to be the ones to say to them, you technically haven't been looking for work. A human being has never seen your resume. So you have not really been looking for work, which hurts to say, because people usually feel really embarrassed and silly about that, and they shouldn't, because our entire society and culture has taught us that's what we're supposed to do. The technology is there, so use it. We were never taught in school how to take ownership of our career, how to be a business of one, and proactively go out and market ourselves. That's what we're doing here with all of you on these sessions and over at Work It Daily, is helping close the gap in your knowledge so you know that's not the right way to look for work at all. At all. The right way to look for work is to say, what companies would benefit from my services? What companies would get a win-win partnership? I know who I want to work for, but what are they going to get out of it? How is this going to be mutually beneficial? Okay, now how do I start to connect with them so that I can make that partnership known? So I can start to show them that they would get a great return on their investment by working with me. And the good news is most people are still phoning it in. It's called lazy job search. They're just phoning it in online. They're not getting anywhere. You all are here learning the techniques that are going to get you to go around the ATS and actually get results and talk to people. And that's exciting, because not a lot of people are doing it. So good for you for being here and learning, and don't give up. All right. Awesome. So Edward says, was a licensed FA for 6 years and a combat veteran in the USMC. How much would you spotlight these if they're not super relevant to the current roles? So first of all, Edward, thank you for your service to our country. We really appreciate it. In my experience, military experience, military history should be at the top of your resume. We call it the top fold because when a recruiter opens it up, they see that and the first 6 seconds determine what they think of you. So if I see military experience in the top fold, I know that you're a veteran. I know that you're disciplined, that you're hardworking, and that you listen. Those are all fabulous qualities. So I think you play it up. You absolutely play it up. You get it in there. Now, I'm going to tell you something with that amazing discipline, listening, all of that good stuff. Also, those are all the positive qualities that are immediately associated with a military degree, military experience. There are also some negative qualities. Could you be very rigid? Are you going to be intense? Are you going to have a hard time getting along with other people? Those are just natural biases that they have. Not correct, not right, but you're going to have to sell around them. So for someone like you, the idea of a disruptive cover letter where you're telling an amazing story about why you feel connected to them, that's going to allow your personality, your compassion, your empathy, your understanding, your intelligence, all these soft skills to come out through the storytelling. So now I have this great story about why you feel connected to the company. I open up the resume. I say, see, wow, this is a veteran. Awesome. I'm totally going to overlook the fact that you don't have a degree because I'm so impressed with the story and the military experience and the other experience that, hey, he at least deserves a phone call, right? So that's how you start to shift, folks. It's on you. You can't just send in your materials as is, just a resume and a generic cover letter and assume that they're going to connect the dots and know all this personal stuff about you and feel connected to you and want to give you a shot. Doesn't work that way. You have got to create that opportunity for yourself. So hopefully that helps, Edward. You definitely can do it. Okay, Robert says, Bob, sorry. Hey, Bob. I was a Marine, a gang cop, a single father, and built my own business for 12 years, no degree. Now trying to go corporate, getting no action. Any advice? Oh, yeah. So first of all, awesome story, by the way. Great journey. The big problem you're having, Bob, is you owned your own business. For any of you out there that owned your own business, the immediate bias against you, the rationale is, okay, he's worked for himself for 12 years. He's not going to want to work for anyone else. He's going to be so frustrated. He's going to come in here and find a million things wrong. He's going to have an attitude. He's going to want to control everything. That is the immediate bias that goes against anyone that's owned their own company. And all my folks out there that are in that position, you can comment in there. Let Bob know that you're dealing with the same thing because it's a very natural and normal bias. Now, Bob, in your case, and I've worked with a lot of people, this happens to a lot of executives too, like that were CEOs for a while and now they want to go back and they don't need to have the head honcho role, right? But if you own a business and you want to go back into corporate, there has to be a very compelling story there about what's been missing in your career. And it can't be the paycheck and the stability because they already know that, right? They already know if you come here, there's that stability and paycheck that you don't get when you own your own business. So they already know the advantages they have over you. They want to hear something more related to what are they going to get? Why are you willing to work for someone else? Why are you really going to let somebody else be in charge? And the right answer should be, and if this isn't the answer and this isn't what you believe, then you can't say it. But the right answer should be, I worked and ran my own business for a long time, and there's only so much you can do. As a small business owner, you're limited in the scope of work you can take on. You're limited in how you can grow. You're limited in who you can collaborate with. You're limited in the size of projects you can take on. You're limited. You're limited in your resources. And I miss that. I want to go now and work for somebody that's got bigger budgets, bigger resources. I want to have peers. I was very lonely to be my own business owner. There was no one to turn to. There was no one to learn from. There was no one to collaborate with. I want to be surrounded by other people. I'm going to be so excited to have teammates and have help and learn from other people and know that together we can create something much bigger than I could have done when I worked for myself. Right? So what they're really looking for is that you've had the mental realization that going into corporate is going to provide a different level of growth for you. Because it's all about growing, folks. If your career isn't growing, it's dying. If you don't get that and you can't articulate that to an employer, then what are they buying? They're investing in you. And they want to know that they're going to get a healthy return on that investment. They call it an ROI. So hiring you, I need to hear how by hiring you, you are going to continue to grow and become more valuable to me because I am investing in you, in your business of one. And so, Bob, that's the story that you need to be able to tell. You need to own like the parts of being a business owner that weren't good, that limited your growth as a professional. And you need to be very clear about the parts of your growth as a professional that's going to make you more valuable. right? Because it's when you have a former business owner that knows how hard it is to own a business and all that it takes to run a business, they generally come in and they are the best workers. They have the most wonderful work ethic because they've been there. They understand management. They understand decisions. They've had to do it all. So you're a wonderful asset, but that has to be presented in the mindset of, I really do want to work for someone else and be part of something bigger. Okay. So hopefully everybody out there that's dealing with it, that helped. Bob, thank you for that question. Luis is asking, does distance to job location matter? It does. Companies don't want you to have a long commute. And also companies aren't going to tend to recruit you if you don't live in the area, just so you know. They want to know that you're moving to the area on your own, that you're planning to be there no matter what. No company wants to hire somebody only to have them move there and go, oh, wow, this isn't for me. And now I'm here and there's nothing for me. So you need to be intending to move somewhere for a company to consider you, just so you know. George is asking, do you think ageism comes into play if a degree isn't held? Doesn't current professional accreditation mean more than a degree earned 20 years ago? Oh, that's so interesting, George, that you would ask that question. So there's a lot of people that are more senior workers, more seasoned workers that don't have a degree but have 20 plus years of experience, right? Like back when they got a job in the field, a degree wasn't required, and now all of a sudden a degree is. So we do definitely see that. You have to sell around it, as we discussed earlier today with the points today, okay? And I think that showing the recent accreditations is extremely helpful. Knowing that you've gotten, recent certifications that are relevant to your field, oftentimes are considered more important. But even then, at that point, I'm going to be honest with you, it becomes less of a question of whether or not you have a degree and more of a question of whether or not you are in growth mode or not. How many of you know the difference between growth mindset and fixed mindset? So Carol Dweck did this amazing research on this idea of fixed versus growth mindset. And she was able to show us signs that we are in fixed mindset. The number one problem, I'm going to put it out there and I'm going to catch a lot of flack right now. So I'm bracing for it. The number one problem that people over the age of 40 have is that they start to fall into fixed mindset. They think they're a growth mindset. They think that they want to grow their careers, but they don't really. And they don't have the right presentation style, the right communication. They're not saying the right things to indicate that they are in growth mode. Instead, they're in fixed mode. They're in protect mode. They're trying to hold on to what they have. So to hold on to what they have creates ego. Ego creates attitude. Attitude creates a communication style that comes across as dominating, unchanging, insecure, not fun to be around. And all of a sudden they're saying, I'm being age discriminated against. Yes, because you literally gave off the vibe that you are a fixed mindset person. And young people today want to work with growth mindset because that's where they naturally are. They are naturally in growth mindset. So when growth mindset and fixed mindset butt heads, growth mindset wins, fixed mindset hits the highway. Plain and simple. The solution for anyone over the age of 40 who is feeling like they are dealing with age discrimination is to do a deep self-introspective and to get some branding assistance with your brand so that you are giving truly the impression of a growth mindset. And growth mindset comes from emotional intelligence, meaning being very self-aware of what you're saying and how you're saying it and what you're doing, and intellectual humility. I see a lot of people over the age of 40 that really just want recognition for being here. Well, they see how hard I worked. I climbed uphill both ways in a snowstorm. I would just want respect. I hear this all the time. The younger generation, I want respect because of everything I did and they haven't done yet. It doesn't work that way anymore. It doesn't. And that is so hard to hear because the generation prior to us, that's what they told us. Respect your elders. Nowadays, everything at the rate of change, it's respect whoever has the most information about the subject at the time. It's respect whoever is getting it done and winning. And you can be 22 or you can be 82. But it's the people with the growth mindset who say, there's no stopping here. I have to keep learning. I have to keep growing. I have to keep learning. I have to keep growing. And the more I learn and grow, the more humble I become because the more I realize how much more I have to learn and grow. And that mindset has got to be presented when you are over the age of 40. Otherwise, you're coming up against millennials and soon to be Gen Z who make up over half the workforce, who are in growth mindset, who are dealing with somebody with fixed mindset who's coming across like an attitude problem. Guess who wins? The growth mindset wins. So really, really hard. And by the way, I don't think you're any of this, George. I am so grateful you asked this question because this is a hot button with me these days. You know, you all know we are trying to help 1 million people on LinkedIn grow their careers. I use the term specifically grow their careers. A lot of the people we're hoping to help this year on LinkedIn are people over the age of the 40 who have fallen into fixed mindset. And it hurts to get it. Fixed is comfortable. I'll stay in fixed. I just want to protect what I have. And I got to push everybody out of inertia. I've got to get them into growth mode because growth mode changes how you talk. It changes how you act, and it changes the results you get in your job search. Okay. Awesome. I hope that helps. Let's see. Jessica says, how to get into the healthcare industry with no experience. I have a degree in healthcare administration, but no experience. Okay, so this is, again, Jessica, whether you have the degree or not, you're being rejected because you don't have the experience. So online applications aren't going to work for you because you can't check that box. Once again, you have got to tap into the networking. Start to connect with people at the companies that are doing the work that you do or work at the companies where you want to work. You've got to learn from them. There's a whole networking strategy that you have to follow. That can help you immensely. By the way, for those of you that don't know what we do, in case you're wondering, like, why does she get on here 3 days a week and just kind of ramble about career? Work It Daily is a online career coaching company. We are a software as a service. You ever heard of SaaS? We are a company that lets you subscribe, just like a gym membership, and get access to career coaches online 24/7. So we work you through. We have classes where we teach you how to do this networking, and we coach you how to do the networking. We coach you how to do your resume, your LinkedIn profile, all the stuff we're talking about today. You could be working with a coach online via our app. So for somebody like you, Jessica, we would be heavily focused on helping you build your profiles, but then how to connect with the recruiters at these companies to say, gee, you know, I don't have the 2 years of experience that you're asking for an entry-level role. Let's talk about that. How many people are so frustrated? It says entry-level role must have 2 years of experience. Well, then how's it entry level? You know? So Jessica, you've got to be able to go around the system and say, here's my story. Here's why I love your company. Here's why I love healthcare. Here's why I studied this to be an administrator. Here's my story. Here's why, you know, I'm just so excited about your company. Oh yeah, by the way, I don't have the 2 years of experience, but I have everything else, right? That's how you get screened in. And then once you do, you're in, folks. But you got to do it. It's just, I know everybody's like, JT, why can't I just apply online, get a phone call and get a job? Oh, folks, if it was that easy, everybody'd be doing it. You know, there's a better way to do this. And it's far more empowering when you learn to do proactive job search. I mean, that's the one thing everyone tells us inside the program. They're like, oh, it's a blueprint. I just follow these instructions and all of a sudden I'm actually connecting with employers. Who knew? Yeah, but nobody ever taught you the blueprint. That's what we're trying to do here with you all. All right, let me see here. Michael's asking an interesting question. How aggressive should you be to push for an interview after a good phone interview? You should not be aggressive, right? Remember this, they're the customer. They make the next move. So if you had a great phone interview, hopefully at the end of the phone interview, you asked for next steps. What are the next steps in the process? And they told you when they would contact you and when that would happen. You need to sit tight. Aside from sending the proper thank you note, which you should do, you need to sit tight, wait 1 full business week. If they gave you a date when they were going to talk to you, after that date, you can contact them. If they said, don't contact us at all, we'll contact you, don't break that rule. You'll get blacklisted for that. So you want to follow whatever instructions they gave you. After a week, if they gave you no instructions, you haven't heard anything, it is appropriate to message them and say, I just wanted to follow up and see if there was anything else I could do to further my candidacy. Is there anything else I can provide you to further my candidacy? I'm very interested in the role. That's all you can say. All right. You want to be really polite about it, but you don't want to be too aggressive because that's the fastest way. I've seen recruiters blacklist people like this, and people go, oh, blacklists exist. Oh, they exist. If you do something to a recruiter at a company that from a cultural standpoint, they're like, that's bad news, you're done for. And the reason for that, folks, is that we're taught in recruiting that whatever we see in the interview process, multiply it by 10. And that's what you're really going to be like on the job. So if you overstep bounds or if you do something that feels aggressive now, then I multiply that by 10 and that's what you're going to be like as an employee. That's not going to happen. Remember, recruiters are technical buyers. They're evaluated on how well they're doing their job by how well they completely match the requirements of the role. So they don't want to take people that are underqualified or overqualified because they've been told to find people that are exactly qualified. And that's their job. So they want to fit you in a box. And so you can't sell too hard against it, which is why we keep talking about today. You have to go around the process and be referred in so that the recruiter is convinced that it's worth it to take a chance on you because you don't fit their perfect little box that they were told you need to fit. That's how it works. It's just reality. Awesome. Great question. Let's see. Oh my gosh, this is a great question. Jen Holland, shout out to Jen. How would a 25-year-old GED, high-functioning autistic person with casual office work approach ATS? Yeah. So Jen, I wouldn't have you approach ATS. You can fill out everything and try to get through the process. I think you need to work on your story. See, I love stories like this, right? You're high-functioning autism, which means you have some sort of incredible gift that gets leveraged. We all know that now. Thanks to movies and social media, there is a perception. This is what I'm talking about, folks. This is where the rationale comes. Oh, Jen has high functioning autism. Ooh, there's something in there, right? There's some value in there. There's something special that Jen does. Jen, that's your story. That's your story right there. Hey, yeah, I have high functioning autism, but it also lets me do this. It also means I'm skilled at this. And I would love to have a conversation with you on how I want to leverage that. And you want to build that brand and that brand story up so that people understand. The best thing you can do, folks, is if you're not perfect, and none of us are, is to be able to go on what the offensive when it comes to explaining our deficiencies. But that introduces us to be able to say, look, these are the things I'm not so good at. This is a weakness. This is something. But hey, here's also how it becomes my strength. Because our strength create our weaknesses and vice versa. So there has to be something there to balance it out. So I like this idea of going forward and saying, I want to tell you my story. You know, I'm a high functioning autistic person who's incredibly skilled at this. I really want to find an opportunity to leverage that. You know, can we have a conversation to talk about that piece with you? Can I learn more about what it would take for somebody like me to be considered for a role at your organization? Those are the networking conversations you want to have. Awesome. Okay. Listen, Scott says, how would you recommend networking within an industry that is mostly on the other side of the country from where you go to school? My daughter is in Rochester, New York, and most of the animation industry is in California. Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that I would tell you is that your daughter needs a bucket list. Anybody out there that has passion for a particular industry, you need a bucket list of employers. And don't get hung up on where they're located. Focus more on what they are and why they do what they do. Then what you want to do is use the amazing tool called LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a social marketplace. It's not a social network. It's a social marketplace. You can very easily now, thank you, LinkedIn, thank you very much, go to a company and find all the people in a certain location that worked at that company. So there's a really good chance if you make a nice bucket list of animation companies and then you look at all of the people in animation in New York, your daughter's going to find a bunch of people that used to work there and maybe they moved back or they're someplace else that's smaller, lesser known doing animation in New York because they didn't want to live in California anymore. And those are the people that she wants to do informational interviews with. Now, informational interviews are amazing, folks. They are not you asking for a job. They're you interviewing somebody about their career and their life and how they got there. And people love to do that. People love to share their stories and offer insight on how to get ahead in the world, you know, and what they've learned along the way, especially for college students. So your daughter and anybody else out there on the younger side in college, informational interviews are the secret sauce. You need to learn how to do them. We have a whole video tutorial on how to do those inside Work It Daily if you're interested, but that would be the key and you'll be amazed. I mean, LinkedIn's so fantastic. The fact that you can go find all the animation people that are living now in New York, it's totally doable. And those are the people that I would have her customize a connection request to on LinkedIn, say, hey, this is my deal. Really want to meet animation people in the New York area. Do you have any suggestions on how to do that? Are there any meetups? Are there any events? Are you speaking anywhere? You know, and those people will tell you. And that's how you start to build those connections. Awesome. Let's see. Sometimes I reach out, Sheen says, I reach out and network and they never answer. They usually respond that they are very busy and to contact HR. Any advice? Yes, absolutely. So, you know, one of the things that I've learned over time when I'm networking with a stranger, okay, is that if I reach out to them and I'm flat out asking for something, they're probably going to tell me they're too busy. But if I can offer them something when I'm asking them something, I'm probably going to get a slightly better rate of return or a better response rate. So what do I mean by that? So let's say there's somebody at a company you want to work with, and you see that you both went to the same college, or you're both in the same skill set, you both worked at the same previous company, something. You've got to find a point of commonality. It helps to start with that. So, hey, can we connect? I see that we both, went to the school. I see we both have this or that. I'd love to share something with you. And when they connect, you want to offer them something up. So, hey, here's an article. I see that you're in, digital marketing. I see that you're in software design in our space. And I read this article or I saw this video recently. I thought it was really good. I thought you might like it. Are you experiencing any of this at your current employer? Are you dealing with any of that at your current employer? So essentially, you're offering up some value, you're sending something insightful, and you're asking a question around, does this happen at your company? Well, that's an easy enough thing to respond to. First of all, this is like a natural networking conversation. If you were in person, you might have this conversation. So you're recreating what would be a meaningful conversation in person online. So the person responds back and says, oh yeah, it's an interesting article. No, we're not dealing with that here because of this and this reason. What that then does is you're able to say, wow, that makes a lot of sense. I'd love to learn more about that. Is there any chance I could interview you briefly? Could I meet you for coffee, or could I schedule a short phone call for you? I'd like to learn more about that. I'd really like to understand your position there and how that's working. So now, do you see what I'm saying? You kind of breadcrumb them into a discussion and got them to comment. And so that makes it logical for you to say, hey, that does make sense. That's interesting. I want to hear more from you. So that's how you can get that dialogue going and get more people to respond. But when we reach out to total strangers and say, hey, yeah, thanks for connecting with me. I was really hoping to find out what it takes to get hired at the company. Can we talk? That's just you asking for something, as opposed to, let's get to know each other a little bit first. Let's have a conversation around our industry or our skill set or something that we nerd out on together. Let's find our point of commonality and start to connect that way first. One of the things I see people, it's a big mistake people make all the time here on LinkedIn, is they assume that because it's online that we can shortcut the relationship process. That this means we can go right to it, We're going to skip the dating. We're going to skip the small talk. We're going to get right to it. And that's not good. People don't like that. That's why LinkedIn is no longer a networking tool and more of a marketplace tool. It's where you can research people, you can learn about people, but actual networking is starting to happen in micronets, in offline networks, where people feel more safe and more comfortable sharing and having conversations with people of shared interests, right? So that's a whole shift that's occurring right now and changing on the platform. It's one of the reasons that LinkedIn has introduced events, because they've even recognized that we need a place for people to actually start having conversations again, because it's not happening on the platform. But you can recreate that, more of that conversational feel, if you slow the process down a little bit. If you recognize that it's probably a 2 or 3 email exchange to get to know each other and build up relationship in order for that person to help you and you to help them, right? So that would be my advice there. And even then, you're not going to get 100% response rate, but it's a numbers thing. The more people you reach out to and you try to slowly build and have those conversations, the better response you're going to get. One question is, if I was told if you cannot keep your cover letter short, it will not be read. Do you have any guidance on that? I disagree. I disagree with that. If your cover letter is long and all about you and how great you are, no one will read it. If your cover letter is long and it's a summary of all your past accomplishments, which is also on your resume, nobody will read it. If your cover letter is a really interesting story about how the company's products or services saved your grandmother's life, I'm going to read it. If your story is about how when you were 10 years old, you realized that you were absolutely found your calling in life, and here's the story about why you now do what you do for a living, I'm going to read it. There's a difference. What you're proposing is a traditional cover letter, and yeah, if it's longer than 1 page, I'm not going to read it. But you write me a story, I don't mind if it's a little more than 1 page, because you had me at hello. That's the difference. And folks, this works. This is marketing. You think about it. Let me put it to you this way. I've asked this before. I'll ask it again. Everybody right now, first brand that comes into mind in your head, first brand that you think of when you think of, I love this brand. I love buying this brand. I'm so loyal to this brand. This brand is awesome. Name it. What product and service? Name it right now. Put it right in there. Okay. Whatever it is, think about how they've marketed themselves to you. Think about how you feel emotionally connected to them. Think about the stories and the marketing and the way they have repeatedly validated to you that you are their customer, right? That they've built that relationship. That's branding at its best. What I'm asking you to do, especially if you don't have a degree, or if you're having problem getting hired because you don't have experience, or whatever it is that is naturally tossing you from the applicant tracking system, what I am telling you to do right now is to create a marketing story, create a brand that is irresistible, that is interesting, that is compelling. That is how you get hired. You get that in someone's hands, now they're going to listen. Because what they're getting all day long is the same old dribble, the same old boring, self-important, narcissistic, I'm the best thing in the world letters that they don't read. But something that comes across their desk that gets them at hello, now you've disrupted the mindset. Now I really want you to be the candidate. Oh, okay, so they don't have a degree, but that cover letter was so good. I think I need to talk to them. Or they don't have the experience, but that cover letter was so good. I mean, who writes like that? That's what you have to do. You got to put some skin in the game. Okay. All right. I got to close it up for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Listen, just a reminder, come follow me on TikTok and Instagram. We're giving out a lot of great advice there. Please, if you don't follow me here on LinkedIn, if you don't follow my actual profile on LinkedIn, you are not able to participate. So if you enjoyed today, make sure you do that so that we can connect. I am live streaming 3 days a week. The topics are now in my feed. So you're going to see what I'm going to be talking about each day. As you saw, I talk about that for the first 15 minutes or so, and then I go to general Q&A. So you can always stay in and get your questions answered as well. I will just finally say this. If you are looking to get all your career questions answered by a professional, if you would like to have support and resources and do it in a private setting where you can not be here in a public forum, but someplace private where you can really ask personal questions and get the right answers, go check out Work It Daily. We are disrupting the career coaching industry. We've built the gym membership for your career online. It's super affordable, and you will be amazed at all the things that you can do when you have career coaches supporting you. So please go check us out. That's why we're there. But if not, it's okay. Just come back tomorrow. I'll be back again tomorrow and again on Thursday. Be sure to check out the feed for our next topics. And thank you to all of you who have stopped by today and contributed. Remember, if you want to win in your career, you've got to work it daily. It's about habits. We spend hours of our day wasting our time on social media, liking and looking and feeling bad about yourselves. Coming here, spending a little bit of time working on your career, learning how to grow and be better and be stronger, that's time well spent. So congratulate yourselves because you did something good for your career today. Okay? All right, everyone. I'll see you soon. I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Take care. Bye-bye.